In February 1959, 9 hikers vanished into the frozen wilderness of the Ural Mountains. What was meant to be a challenging winter expedition turned into one of the most chilling mysteries in Russian history. And decades later, we still don't know what truly happened. Tonight, we dig deep into the Dyatlov Pass Incident, a story laced with confusion, conspiracy, and clues that don't quite fit. Was it a freak avalanche? Soviet military tests gone wrong? A paranormal event? Before we get started, if you're into deep dive mysteries, unsolved cases, and cold trails that still burn with questions, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We got more cases like this coming your way. Now, grab a blanket, dim the lights, and get ready, because what you're about to hear isn't just a story. It's a case that still whispers from the snow-covered slopes of Dead Mountain. Imagine yourself in darkness, minus 30 degrees Celsius, snow piling, wind howling. You hear nothing, and yet something drives you to cut open your only shelter and run barefoot into the night. That is exactly what happened to the Dyatlov group. Over the decades, dozens of books, documentaries, and theories have emerged, from the plausible to the paranormal. Was their fate caused by nature's wrath, or did something more sinister intervene? In this video, we'll walk you through the expedition, the chilling discovery, dissect each major theory, from avalanches and infrasound to Soviet cover-ups and cryptids, examine new research, and invite you to decide what really happened on that frozen slope. To understand the mystery, we must start with the people, the hike, and the terrain. The Dyatlov expedition was composed of 9 experienced hikers, mostly students or graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute. Their leader was Igor Dyatlov. Their objective was to reach Otorten, a mountain in the northern Urals. The region is remote, harsh, and unforgiving in winter. Temperatures regularly plunge below minus 25 degrees Celsius, with fierce winds and deep snow. On January 27, 1959, they left the last inhabited area and headed into the wilderness. Their progress was steady, with journals and photographs documenting their journey. But on the night of February 1st to 2nd, something changed. They pitched their tent on the eastern slope of a mountain known locally to the Mansi, the indigenous people, as Kolit-Sayakul, roughly translated Dead Mountain. The chosen campsite was a slope, a decision that has drawn scrutiny. Some say they carved a platform into the snow for the tent. Others argue their path to reach that spot may have forced them there. That night, in the dark and storm, tragedy struck. Important to note, at the time, winter in the Urals was not just cold, it was capricious. Winds, snowdrifts, temperature reversals all conspired to create hidden dangers. Even experienced mountaineers were vulnerable. When the hikers failed to return, search efforts began. What the rescuers found would fuel decades of mystery. The tent was located on February 26, nearly 3 weeks later. It was cut open from the inside. It was as if the hikers had clawed their way out in urgency. Inside were left many belongings, shoes, warm clothing, items you'd expect people would bring for evacuating normally. The way out was not via the tent entrance, but through slits they had made. Investigators traced footprints from the tent outward. Some walked in socks or barefoot. Others had only a single shoe. The tracks led away into the night, toward a nearby tree line. The first 2 bodies were found near a cedar tree, about 300 meters from the tent. They were barefoot and dressed only in minimal clothes. 3 more bodies were discovered between the pine tree and the tent. in poses suggesting they tried to move back toward the shelter. The remaining 4 found in early May, buried under deep snow in a ravine 75 meters further in the forest from the pine. By then, decomposition and water had taken their toll. Of the 9, 6 died of hypothermia, but 3 died of unusual physical trauma, 2 with massive chest fractures comparable to high force, 1 with major skull damage. Curiously, these traumatic injuries showed no external wounds, as though enormous internal pressure crushed them. Even more bizarre, soft tissue damage to face, missing eyes, tongue, missing eyebrows in some bodies. One woman, Dubinina, was found without her tongue, others missing eyebrows, facial tissues. Some of the victims' clothing tested for slight traces of radioactivity. The levels were low but inexplicable, fueling speculation. Those facts alone, the internal injuries, the missing soft tissue, the tent cut from inside, the footwear left behind, present a puzzle that seems to defy a single, clean explanation. Over the decades, many have tried, but let's examine them. Perhaps the most enduring candidate explanation is avalanche or snow slab collapse. In 2020, Russian prosecutors reopened the case and declared that an avalanche was the official cause. But the challenge? The slope was relatively shallow, with no obvious avalanche debris at scene, and the tent location lacked classic avalanche indicators. Critics say a full avalanche doesn't fit, a modern twist, the delayed slab avalanche or wind slab model. In 2021, Swiss researchers Gaum and Puzrin used computer modeling to show that a slab of snow above the tent could be triggered and collapse downward, enough to impact the tent and push the hikers to flee. In that model, the avalanche might not leave dramatic debris, but could exert enough force to frighten and crush. It could explain how 4 bodies ended up buried under snow, with crushing pressures consistent with internal trauma. Pros: it is a natural force, no need for conspiracies. It can help explain the internal crush injuries if a collapse happened. It explains why some bodies were buried under deep snow and ravines. Cons: lack of surface avalanche traces, debris, snow slide paths. The tent was cut from inside rather than buried immediately. Doesn't easily explain missing soft tissue or radiation. Doesn't fully account for why some left barefoot, why others try to return. It is possible the avalanche acted as trigger, not full cause. Panic, secondary effects, disorientation all compounded the disaster. Many researchers now favor a hybrid model, avalanche plus other factors. Another candidate, powerful katabatic or downslope winds. These are gravity-driven winds that descend rapidly, gaining force, and can whip across slopes with destructive force. In theory, a sudden gust could terrorize a group, destabilize the tent, and push them to flee. One line of thought is that such winds could collapse snow walls or create noise and confusion. Pros: a known natural phenomenon in mountainous regions. Helps explain urgency, force evacuation. Cons: unlikely to produce crushing internal injuries by itself. Doesn't easily explain the tent being cut from inside. Doesn't address radiation or missing tissue. Some suggest that the wind and snow collapse might have forced them out. Then a secondary effect, like falling into a ravine, caused trauma. Alone, wind is insufficient, but in combination, it might help fill gaps. One of the more intriguing and bizarre hypotheses is infrasound-induced panic, proposed in popular accounts such as Donnie Icar's Dead Mountain. The idea: Wind blowing over the mountain dome creates a Kármán vortex streak, periodic vortices, and in doing so generates very low-frequency sound waves, infrasound, below human hearing but capable of stimulating the inner ear and causing physiological distress, panic, disorientation, nausea. In ICAR scenario, the hikers are struck by panic from infrasound, flee irrationally, cutting open tent, and in darkness fall down ravines or into obstacles, receiving traumatic injuries. Pros: offers a trigger for seemingly irrational behavior, explains why they left the tent abruptly with minimal gear. Cons: the scientific link between infrasound and extreme panic is controversial. Studies show mild discomfort, but full-blown mass panic is speculative. Doesn't readily explain crushing injuries or radiation. Because of its speculative nature, infrasound is often paired with other factors, wind plus snow conditions, to build a more complete narrative. We already know 6 of the 9 died of hypothermia, but hypothermia can cause a counterintuitive effect known as paradoxical undressing. Victims, in late stages of cold exposure, may feel burning heat and remove clothing. In this incident, some bodies were found partially or minimally clothed, and some were wearing others' clothes. That could align with hypothermic confusion. But this theory alone cannot explain violent injuries, tent cutting, or missing tissues. It's not a primary cause, but potentially a contributing behavior. Because no single theory neatly fits every clue, many researchers favor hybrid explanations, a sequence of events combining multiple forces. For example, unseen slab avalanche triggers collapse. Infrasound panic or wind disorients them. They flee tent irrationally. Some fall into ravine or get crushed by secondary snow shifts. Hypothermia and paradoxical undressing claim the rest. These layered models, mixing physics, physiology, and environment, are currently among the most compelling approaches. But even then, gaps remain. Given the Cold War context and Soviet secrecy, distrust has fueled theories of military involvement or cover-ups. One version: the hikers inadvertently enter the area of secret tests, parachute mines, radiation, sonic weapons. The hikers are startled by explosions, flee, and perhaps are injured by blast wave pressure, explaining internal trauma, minimal external wounds. The radioactive residue on clothing is often cited as supporting this theory, though the levels were low and may have other explanations. Proponents argue that Soviet authorities suppressed or sanitized evidence. Files disappeared. Investigations closed quickly. The area was closed to outsiders for years. Pros: offers a motive and mechanism for internal trauma plus radiation, consistent with the secrecy culture of the USSR. Cons: no definitive documentation confirming military experiments that night in that location. Explanations are often speculative, relying on inferred conspiracies. Doesn't always explain tent cutting or barefoot fleeing. In short, plausible but lacking smoking gun evidence. A more sensational hypothesis: Yeti, unknown cryptid, or beast attack. These speculative claims derive from local folklore or misinterpretations of photographs. Some point to a blurry figure in one of the last photos taken, claiming it resembles a humanoid form in snow. Others argue the missing tongue or facial mutilation suggests a predator that gouged parts. Pros: appeals to mystery and fear. Discussed in pop culture, keeps audience intrigue alive. Weaknesses: no credible tracks, no evidence of struggle beyond the group itself, no known animal, even hypothetical, matches the injuries plus behaviors. The missing soft tissues can be more plausibly explained by decomposition, scavengers, or water erosion. Some go further. UFOs, alien intervention, dimensional anomalies. Proponents highlight glowing orange spheres seen by witnesses at night or said to be seen. Under such theories, the group might have had contact with extraterrestrial craft, triggering panic, abduction, or weapon-like effects. Pros: captures imagination, X-Files angle, explains the inexplicable radiation missing tissues in one sweep. Cons: no concrete proof. Aliens leave no traces we can verify. The UFO sightings could be misinterpreted missile tests or atmospheric effects. Doesn't align cleanly with many pieces of evidence. Some more fringe ideas propose sudden fluctuations in gravity, temporal distortions, or forces that rip bodies from the tent. One version posits a gravity corridor effect, a localized drop in gravity, so severe that bodies were pulled or thrown. But these hypotheses, while imaginative, lack empirical foundation. They are entertaining, but speculative beyond testability. Decades after the tragedy, renewed investigations have breathed new life into the case. 2019 reopening and 2020 conclusion. In 2019, at the behest of survivors' families, Russian authorities reopened the investigation. In 2020, they announced that an avalanche was the official cause, though many were dissatisfied with the narrow scope. Prosecutor Andrei Kuryakov stated that only natural causes, avalanche, wind, snowslide, should be considered, dismissing conspiracy theories. 2021 Swiss-Russian study, using computer modeling, researchers Gom and Puzrin, showed that a slab avalanche over a slope similar to that at the Dyatlov site could trigger collapse consistent with some injuries, even without full avalanche accumulation, field expeditions, and photogrammetry. A Swedish-Russian expedition in 2019 revisited the site, reanalyzed the terrain, attempted to precisely locate the original tent, and measure snow conditions. Critiques and skepticism. Some researchers point out that the new models still don't fully explain missing soft tissue, radioactivity, abrupt tent abandon, or why 3 bodies suffered massive internal trauma without external wounds. Some historians say critical files were never released or went missing. Chain of custody and data integrity remain concerns. It's worth noting that even the official 2020 decision was met with dissent. Survivors' families and independent sleuths still argue that too many anomalies remain unaddressed. So where does that leave us? Let's weigh strengths and gaps and propose a reason hypothesis, while acknowledging uncertainty. What any good theory must explain. 1. Why did the hikers cut the tent open from the inside and fled in panic? 2. Why did many go barefoot or in minimal clothing? 3. The internal crush injuries, massive chest fractures, skull damage, with minimal external trauma. 4. The missing soft tissues, tongue, eyes, facial features in some bodies. 5. Burial under snow/ravine locations. 6. Traces of radioactivity in clothing. 7. Lack of other footprints. No overt sign of struggle. 8. Secrecy, missing files, and suppressed clues. Which theories score high versus low? Avalanche/slab models account well for snow burial, crushing pressure, natural mechanism, but struggle with biopsy-level anomalies, missing tissue, radiation, internal trauma without external wounds. Or wind/katabatic forces help explain panic, but lack power to create trauma. Or infrasound offers a plausible panic trigger, but remains speculative and weak on physical injury. Or military/weapon theories offer a mechanism for internal pressure plus radiation plus cover-up, but lack hard, documented confirmation for that specific time/place. Or cryptid/UFO are alluring, but weakest in evidentiary grounding. Given the evidence in recent studies, the hybrid model, slab avalanche plus panic or disorientation or secondary effects, is currently the most balanced, though it doesn't fully close every gap. If pushed, I'd learn. On that night, a slab of snow above the tent became unstable due to wind, temperature cycles, added load. The collapse, though not massive, exerted pressure, perhaps partially crushing or destabilizing the area. At the same time, wind and possible infrasound or acoustic disturbances disoriented the group, creating panic. In their disoriented flight, some fell into ravines or were forced off paths, receiving traumatic injuries. As hypothermia advanced, paradoxical undressing and confusion set in. Some scavenger or water-mediated erosion removed soft tissues. Some trace radioactivity may stem from environmental contamination or earlier exposure, not necessarily connected to the cause. Soviet secrecy, file loss, and imperfect investigation amplified the mystery. And yet, that is not a perfect theory. It leaves open questions. Why the tent cut pattern, the particular internal trauma in those three, the missing tissues, why some tried to return to the tent, etc. Some or all of those may be artifacts of post-mortem processes or incomplete data. The haunting truth is, we may never fully know. Over 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass Incident continues to captivate, terrify, and puzzle. The cold, silent slopes hold secrets we may never fully answer. But one thing is clear, the tragedy was multi-layered. The hikers face an environment of snow, wind, darkness, and perhaps unseen forces. Each clue, the cut tent, the footprints, the crushing trauma, the missing facial features, is a piece of fractured mosaic. Whether the ultimate cause was natural, human, or something stranger, their story endures as a testament to the power of mystery and how we chase answers in the shadows. What do you think happened that night? Leave your theory in the comments. If you found this deep dive illuminating or chilling, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future investigations. This is Echoes of the Unsolved, and together we venture into the unknown. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and let the mountain keep whispering its secrets.